There is a phrase that, if it is real, changes everything we thought we understood about what happened to Nancy Guthrie. 4 words: buried with nature now. That is what a source close to this investigation says was written in the second note connected to this case. Not a ransom demand, not a negotiation. According to this source, a message that indicated Nancy had died, that her death was not intentional, but notably, a message that never offered a direct apology. Read that again. Not intentional, but no apology. What does that even mean? What kind of person writes that sentence and stops there? But here is what makes this so much harder to untangle. TMZ, who has also received communications connected to this case, says that is not true. They say the notes they received never mentioned death at all. 2 outlets, 2 different claims, the exact same case. And in the middle of that contradiction is a family who has never told the world which version, if either, is real. Tonight we are going through exactly what was reported. What a retired FBI agent who has worked kidnapping cases for decades says these notes actually reveal about the person who sent them, and why one video Savannah Guthrie posted after this second note arrived might tell us more than the note itself ever could. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you may understand this case differently than you did 5 minutes ago. This channel covers the Nancy Guthrie case the way it deserves to be covered. Carefully, factually. We tell you exactly what is confirmed and exactly what is still uncertain, because this family does not need more speculation. They need the truth. If that is the kind of coverage you want, subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because this case is moving and we are not slowing down. Let's start with exactly what was reported and why it matters so much. A source close to the investigation says the second note in this case stated that Nancy Guthrie died, that her death was not intentional, but the note reportedly did not contain a direct apology. Now compare that to the first note. The first note was widely described publicly as a ransom note. A local news director who personally received it went on record saying she would categorize the first note as a ransom note, but she would not call the second one that. Think about what that distinction means. Why would an experienced news director, someone who has handled sensitive correspondence before, draw a hard line between calling one note a ransom note and refusing to call the other one the same thing? Because the second note reportedly read differently, less like a demand for money, more like something final. And that is when something happened that, in hindsight, may be the most devastating detail in this entire case. Shortly after that second note reportedly arrived, Savannah Guthrie posted a video. Watch what she said. "We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is very valuable to us and we will pay." Listen to that again, slowly this time. We understand. We beg you to return her to us so we can celebrate with her. If that second note truly said Nancy had died, that video is not a mother negotiating for a rescue. That is a daughter begging for her mother's body, begging to bring her home one last time. But before we go any further, we have to be completely honest about what we do not know. TMZ has publicly and directly stated that the notes they received never mentioned Nancy's death, not once. And retired FBI agent Steve Moore, a man who has spent his career working kidnapping cases at the highest level, says he remains skeptical that all of these notes are even genuine in the first place. Here is how he explained his thinking. Investigators do not just read the words written on a page, they watch everything that happens after. Does law enforcement reassign personnel? Does the family's public tone shift toward relief, or does it shift toward grief? According to Moore, nothing about how this case moved in the days following these notes suggested anyone believed they had proof of life. And nothing suggested the person who sent these notes had any conciliatory tone toward the family either. In his own words, a good kidnapper gives hope, even while staying in control. Whoever wrote these notes did the opposite. According to Moore, they destroyed hope, and he believes that is because by that point, there was nothing left for them to trade. Now here is a detail that should genuinely unsettle you, because almost nobody covering this case has connected it the way it deserves to be connected. These notes were never sent privately to the family. They went straight to local television stations. Think about how unusual that is. In nearly every documented kidnapping for ransom case in modern history, the person responsible wants total secrecy. Privacy is their single greatest advantage. The moment media becomes involved, federal resources expand immediately. The kidnapper's risk of being identified multiplies overnight. Moore did not hold back on what that tells him. A legitimate, experienced kidnapper does not bring TMZ and local news stations into a private ransom negotiation. Doing that does not protect them. It exposes them. It tells investigators, in his words, that this is someone who believes they understand how this works, but fundamentally does not. In Moore's assessment, that is not the signature of a professional. That is the signature of an amateur who believed they were in control of a story they never actually understood how to control. So why, if a ransom truly was on the table, did the family never pay? Moore's answer goes straight to the most painful calculation any family in this position has ever had to make. Without proof of life, paying is not just a risk to the Guthrie family. It is a risk to every future kidnapping victim in America. If you pay without confirmation that the person is still alive, you remove any incentive for whoever is responsible to keep them that way. Once payment is made, the simplest outcome for the kidnapper is to take the money and disappear, regardless of what has already happened to the victim. Moore said something in our conversation that has not left me since. When a family does not receive proof of life, that is the moment a room goes completely silent, except for the sound of people crying. Because statistically, that silence almost always means one thing. There is nothing left for the kidnapper to trade. And he said something else that puts this entire case into perspective. If the FBI loses this case, they lose a case. If this family loses, they lose their mother forever. That asymmetry is exactly why these decisions are never simple, no matter how clear they may look from the outside looking in. There is one more piece of this story that deserves your full attention, because it reveals just how chaotic this case has become behind the scenes. TMZ has said they reached out to the FBI multiple times, asking whether testing the Bitcoin payment trail might actually help the investigation move forward. According to TMZ, the FBI gave one non-committal response and then stopped responding entirely. Moore's read on that is direct. Publicly partnering with a media outlet to draw out a suspect is not how the FBI operates, and there is good reason for that. There is no version of that partnership that does not risk compromising the entire investigation. He also addressed something critical about cases that reach this level of public attention. Once a case becomes this visible, investigators are not just dealing with the original threat anymore. They are dealing with everyone trying to insert themselves into the story. False tips, fabricated notes, people claiming knowledge purely for financial gain. Moore called it exactly what it is. After the real threat moves on, you get the scavengers. So where does that leave us with this specific claim? That the second note said Nancy had died, and that she was, in this source's words, buried with nature now? It leaves us with two credible sources telling two completely different stories. A retired federal agent who remains skeptical that most of these notes are even authentic, and a family who has never publicly confirmed what those notes actually said. What we know for certain is far more limited than what is circulating right now. We know there were multiple notes. We know experienced investigators see real warning signs in how those notes were delivered. We know the family's public tone shifted in ways that suggest something changed behind closed doors, even if we do not know precisely what that something was. What we do not know, and what nobody covering this case honestly can claim to know right now, is whether Nancy Guthrie is alive. If you have any information about what happened to Nancy Guthrie, contact the FBI directly. FBI tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI online, tips.fbi.gov. The reward in this case remains over $1.2 million, completely anonymous. We will keep bringing you exactly what is confirmed, not just what is circulating, because this family deserves coverage built on truth, not speculation. Subscribe, turn on every notification. Because this case is not over, and neither are we.